And understanding the timeline with community solar will help you understand better what you're actually seeing when you get your invoice. So let's start with the timeline of January to March. In January, hypothetically, we're talking about your solar farm in January. It's going to be generating electricity throughout that entire month of January. It's on and generating power. Now, at the end of the month, your utility company, National Grid, will read the meter at the solar farm to see how much energy was generated. Then, based on that amount, they are dividing that energy into the shares that you've been assigned. So if you remember, everybody gets a share of the solar farm, means everybody gets a piece of that energy generated. You see that piece of the energy on your utility bill a couple weeks later. The utility bill, usually it's within the next few days or a week later, depending on when you receive your utility bill. Some folks receive it at the start of the month, some folks receive it at the middle or at the end of the month. But whenever you receive your utility bill, you're going to see that the credits have been deducted from your total. Now, a couple weeks after that, so all the utility bills go out in the month of February, and National Grid then tells us around middle to end of February how much credits or how many credits each customer received. Based on that data that we receive from the utility company, we then send out your invoices in March. This is why there's an approximate 1 month delay between when you see the credits on your utility bill and when you're actually charged for them. Because we have to wait until all the utility bills are sent out for the month and until the utility company checks that off their list and then lets us know all these customers received these credits. And only when we receive that report can we send out invoices. So typically we're seeing 1 month of power that's being generated, and then you get your utility bill at the end of the month, and the following month you should get your invoice from us. If there are more questions about that, we can get to that at the end, but this is just a general timeline. Now, what you actually see on your utility bill is the overall charges that you have with your utility company. You might have also a third-party supplier if you've signed up for one. And then you also have the actual solar credits that you've received. This is just a reminder and a point of clarification that we are not a supplier. That means something different in the industry than what we do. So we're a subscriber organization. We help you get your credits, but we don't control anything regarding your supply rate. That's all going to be on your utility bill. And sometimes that can be confusing because there's a lot of information on your bill. But what you're going to actually want to pay attention to is the last page of your utility bill, and that's where you'll see your credits. But let's just take a look at both pages. So on your first page of your utility bill, and I know this is kind of small, just to show you the entire layout, you've probably noticed at the top of your utility bill, there is a summary section. In that summary, you're going to see the deduction of your credits there. So in this example, this customer received $209.24 in solar credits. Just a reminder, solar credits is just a dollar value of the energy generated. So if you're not sure what that means that all that power that was generated by the solar farm, well, that's translated by the utility company into dollars. So this customer got $209.24 equivalent of energy generated from their solar farm in their share. And that's been subtracted off their utility bill. So you can find that in two places. Again, you can find it on the first page under the summary, and more importantly, on the last page of your utility bill. So for everybody, on the last page of your utility bill, you're going to see the section called Other Charges and Adjustments. And under there, there's a little line that says Transfer Credits and Charges, and that is what National Grid labels as your solar credits. Every utility company puts their solar credits in a different place, of their utility bill, or they might call it something different on the utility bill. But this is exactly how National Grid labels the credits on your bill and where they're deducting it. So it's going to be a separate section on that last page of the bill, and it's listed as transfer credits. So as we see in this example, this customer actually received $208.88 in solar credits, and then they also got an additional credit for paperless billing. And then that amount is listed as a negative number on their bill because it's being subtracted from the total. Now, I know it's a lot of information, so we can definitely answer more specific questions about that at the end, but that is what the utility bill looks like with the credits taken off. Now, because Massachusetts doesn't have a one bill system, what that means is you're not paying for your credits on your utility bill. They're subtracting it off of your bill because you're not paying for it through the utility. You're actually paying for it through us. And that does get confusing for folks when they're first subscribing to community solar and learning how it works. You pay for it through us also for another reason as well, and that's because you have a contracted discount with us. So when you signed your community solar agreement, you also signed off on getting a discount. Every customer is guaranteed a discount when they sign up with us, and it's only through us, not through the utility company, that you get that discount, and that's another reason why we invoice you separately. So looking at the invoice, because this is where we also get quite a few questions when customers receive their invoice for the month. Now, we can break the invoice into three parts. The first part at the very top is going to have all the information regarding the date of your invoice and also your address. So the first thing to look at is the statement date. That is when your invoice is actually sent to you. And the due date, and that's when your invoice is actually charged. The second part of the invoice is the actual explanation or description of the solar credits and your discount. And the last part of your invoice is going to be what method of payment is being charged. So just to go through each section briefly, that first section again is going to have your statement date and due date. It will also have the invoice period at the top. This is something that you don't need to worry too much about. This typically reflects the same date range as the production period, depending on your invoice and your utility provider. This date range is not as important for customers to understand. So you can, for the most part, ignore the invoice period and production period, but it basically reflects the time period of when the solar power was produced and generated. And this range is always going to be before the time frame on your utility bill. Sometimes with the utility companies, there can be a delay with applying credits to your actual bill. So, maybe that time period when the energy was actually generated does not match exactly like 1 month, the same month on your utility bill. So you don't need to worry too much about that. It's just when the credits have actually been applied is what actually matters for you guys. So when you actually see those credits on your utility bill and when you're actually being invoiced for those credits, I think is the most important part. And that is where we have the statement date and the due date. So if you've ever contacted us for questions about your invoice, you know that we ask you for your utility bills, and then we can help match your utility bill with your invoice and go through your charges for you. Now, under the description section, that section is just going to tell you your information about your credits. So what we see here, and I apologize if it's a little bit difficult, I can zoom in a little bit here. What we see here is that, again, this customer received $208.88 or $208.88 on their utility bill in solar credits. What that means, when I said before, that's a dollar value of the energy produced. That means that $208 reflects this energy produced of 2,565 kilowatt hours. So This is like math that you don't really need to worry about too much. It's already done by National Grid. They tell us what that dollar value is for each kilowatt hour, and they tell us how much is being deducted off your utility bill. So this is the information that we received from National Grid. And then we apply the discount. So underneath that, there's going to be a savings line. That's going to be your discount, and you'll see that your discount is deducted. So even if the customer received $208 in solar credits, they're not going to pay for 100% of that because every customer gets a discount. So instead, they actually pay for $186.88. Oh, I'm sorry. In this case, because the customer has a credit card on file and not a bank account as a form of payment, there's also a processing fee added to that as well. So in total, they received $208, but they're paying $186.88. So they're saving money through the discount that's been contracted. And everybody can find that discount as well on their contract, which should be available on your My Solar page, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But the very last section, just to reiterate, is the payment method on file. So either it will say your credit card on file or your bank account on file here. Hopefully that helps clear up some of the questions that you might have on your actual invoice that you're receiving from us every month. Now, where you can access all this information, you might have already seen some emails from us about My Solar. So as I mentioned in that very early slide about Neighborhood Sun, Sun Engine is our platform that we use to manage everything. It's our database. We do all of the billing there. We manage all of your accounts, your contracts, everything there. The customer portal, what you guys see when you log in, is called My Solar. It's all part of the same platform. And this is what My Solar looks like for you if you log in. You can see your environmental impact with signing up for community solar because, hey, of course, solar reduces your carbon footprint. And you can see that in real numbers of the impact that you have on the environment. You can see your total savings on My Solar. You can change or update your billing, change or update your payment, and you can view all of your bills on My Solar as well. You should also be able to view your contract under the Documents tab in My Solar. You can also receive information regarding referrals. There is a solar advocate link on My Solar, and that's what you can click on to refer your friends or family to community solar. And there's often, if you check in with us, there's often different promotions that are going on regarding referrals, and you can always contact our team to find out, what the current promotion is.